I'm Charlie Munger. I'm 99 years old. I've been wealthy for over 60 years. I've survived 18 recessions. I've watched the market crash and recover more times than I can count. And in all that time, I've learned one truth that most people never understand. Getting rich is easy compared to staying rich. I've watched lottery winners go bankrupt within 3 years. I've watched business owners build empires and lose everything. I've watched professional athletes make $300 million and die with nothing. I've watched brilliant investors beat the market for decades, then wipe out in a single bad year. The pattern is always the same. They knew how to accumulate wealth. They never learned how to protect it. Here's a statistic that should terrify every wealthy person. 70% of wealthy families lose their fortune by the second generation. 90% lose it by the third. That's not bad luck. That's a pattern. That's proof that most people have no system for protecting wealth across time. But there is a system, one strategy that protects wealth through every disaster, one approach that not only survives chaos but actually grows stronger because of it. And if you don't learn this strategy, you will lose everything you've built. Maybe not today, maybe not next year, but eventually something will happen that you didn't predict. And without this protection, it will destroy you. I got a phone call at 3 a.m. On the other end was a man I had known for 30 years. A man who had built a $50 million empire from nothing. A man who owned 12 restaurants across California, employed 400 people, and had just bought a vacation home in Hawaii 6 months earlier. He was sobbing so hard I could barely understand him. Charlie, he said, I have nothing left. Nothing. My wife is leaving. My kids won't talk to me. The banks are taking everything. I don't know what to do. His name was Thomas. And in 18 months, he went from $50 million to filing for personal bankruptcy. Not because of bad luck. Not because the economy crashed. Not because someone cheated him. He destroyed himself. With one decision, one catastrophic decision that took everything he spent 30 years building and turned it to ashes in less than 2 years. And the worst part, I could see it coming. I warned him. I begged him to stop, but he didn't listen. And now he works as a restaurant manager for someone else, making $60,000 a year, trying to pay off debts he will never escape. That phone call changed everything for me, because I realized that most wealthy people have no idea how to protect what they've built. They know how to make money. They have no idea how to keep it. Before we go deeper, I need something from you. Drop a comment right now and tell me, what city are you watching from and what's your biggest fear about your money? Are you afraid of losing what you built? Worried about the next recession? Scared that one mistake could cost you everything? Terrified that you'll run out of money before you die? Be honest. No judgment here. I've had all those fears myself. Every wealthy person has. And here's what I want you to promise me right now. Watch this entire video until the end. Not for me, for your own financial future, for your family, for everyone who depends on you. Because what I'm about to share in the next 40 minutes could save you from losing everything. The people who stay wealthy are the ones who finish what they start. They commit to learning. They don't quit halfway through. So promise me you'll stay until the end. Your future self will thank you. Most importantly, trust yourself. The fact that you're here learning about wealth protection means you're already thinking long term. That puts you ahead of 95% of people. Trust that instinct. Let me tell you exactly what happened to Thomas. Because his story is the story of every wealthy person who loses everything. Thomas started with nothing. Immigrant family. Worked in restaurants since he was 14. By 25, he saved enough to open his own place. Small Vietnamese restaurant in San Jose. 12 tables. Just him and his wife cooking and serving. That first restaurant succeeded. So he opened a second, then a third. By 45, he had 12 restaurants across California, 400 employees, $50 million in assets, cash flow of $3 million a year. He was set for life, or so he thought. Then he met a developer, a smooth-talking guy with a big opportunity, a chance to build a hotel and restaurant complex in Las Vegas. The projections were incredible. $200 million in revenue within 5 years. Thomas would own 30%, and Thomas got excited. He got greedy. He saw a chance to go from wealthy to ultra-wealthy, from 50 million to 200 million. So he made the decision that destroyed him. He mortgaged his restaurants, all 12 of them. He took out personal loans. He liquidated his investment accounts. He put everything into this one deal. For a while, it looked brilliant. Construction started. The building went up. Pre-bookings came in. Thomas was walking around telling everyone he was about to be worth 200 million. Then the problems started. Construction costs doubled. Permits got delayed. The developer had legal problems nobody knew about. Investors started backing out. The project stalled at 60% complete, and Thomas was stuck. He had debt payments he couldn't make, mortgages on restaurants that were now worth less than he owed, a project that was bleeding money every month with no end in sight. Within 18 months, the banks started foreclosing, first on the project, then on his restaurants. One by one, the business he spent 30 years building was taken away. His wife, who had worked beside him since the beginning, couldn't take the stress. She filed for divorce. His children blamed him for destroying their inheritance. His employees, 400 people who depended on him, lost their jobs. And that's when he called me. 3 a.m, sobbing, asking what to do. I told him what I'm about to tell you. You come back by never making that mistake again. You come back by learning the one strategy that makes sure you never lose everything. And that's what I'm going to teach you today. But you have to stay with me. Every minute of this video contains lessons that took me 70 years to learn. Don't cheat yourself by leaving early. The strategy is this: diversification is not enough. You need anti-fragility. Let me explain what that means, because this is the most important concept in wealth protection, and almost nobody understands it. Most people think diversification means owning different things. You own stocks, bonds, real estate, maybe some gold, and if one goes down, the others protect you. That's what every financial advisor tells you. And it's not wrong, it's just incomplete, because diversification protects you from losing everything, but it doesn't protect you from losing a lot. It's purely defensive. It says, I'm going to spread my risk so no single failure destroys me. And that's fine, but it's not enough, because in a major crisis, everything goes down together. In 2008, stocks crashed, real estate crashed, bonds crashed. Diversification didn't save people. It just meant they lost money in multiple places instead of one. Thomas was diversified. He had 12 restaurants in different cities. He had investments in different sectors. And he still lost everything, because diversification alone is not enough. Anti-fragility is different. Anti-fragility doesn't just protect you from loss. It positions you to benefit from chaos. It's the idea that your wealth doesn't just survive disasters. It actually grows stronger because of them. And this is what separates people who stay rich from people who lose everything. Let me explain this with a simple image. Think about a wine glass. A wine glass is fragile. If you drop it, it breaks. It cannot handle stress. One bad event and it's destroyed forever. That's most people's wealth. One bad event, one market crash, one failed business, one lawsuit, one health crisis, and it shatters. Gone forever. No recovery possible. Thomas's wealth was a wine glass. He dropped it and it shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. Now think about a plastic cup. A plastic cup is robust. If you drop it, it survives. It bounces. It doesn't break. That's diversified wealth. It can handle shocks. It survives crashes, but it doesn't get better from stress. It just stays the same. A plastic cup that's been dropped 100 times is still just a plastic cup. Most financial advice tries to turn your wine glass into a plastic cup. Diversify. Spread risk. Survive shocks. But what if I told you there's a third category? Something that actually gets better when you drop it. That sounds impossible. But it exists in nature. Your immune system is anti-fragile. Every time it encounters a pathogen and survives, it gets stronger. It learns. It builds defenses. The next time that pathogen attacks, your immune system crushes it. Your muscles are anti-fragile. Every time you stress them through exercise, they break down. And then they grow back stronger. The stress that should destroy them actually makes them more powerful. And your wealth can be anti-fragile too. Every crisis, every downturn, every disaster can make you stronger if you structure it correctly. That's what I'm teaching you today. Stay with me, because we're about to go deep into exactly how to build anti-fragile wealth. Before I show you the 5 principles of anti-fragile wealth, let me give you the math that will save your financial life. If you lose 50% of your wealth, you need a 100% return just to get back to even. Think about that. If you have $1 million and you lose half, you're down to $500,000. To get back to 1 million, you need to double your money. That's a 100% return. And 100% returns don't happen often. So a 50% loss is catastrophic. It takes years, sometimes decades, to recover. But here's where it gets worse. If you lose 75%, you need a 300% return to recover. If you lose 90%, you need a 900% return. Thomas lost everything, 100% gone. There is no mathematical recovery from that. You're starting from zero again. This is why avoiding catastrophic losses is infinitely more important than chasing big gains, because the math works against you. Losses compound faster than gains. The first principle of anti-fragile wealth is this: never put yourself in a position where you can lose everything. This sounds obvious, but almost everyone violates this principle. Thomas violated it. He put too much in one deal. He took on too much leverage. He made a bet he couldn't afford to lose. And when something went wrong, and something always goes wrong eventually, he was destroyed. Here's the first rule of anti-fragile wealth. Never concentrate more than 25% of your wealth in any single investment, business, or asset. Not 30%, not 40%, 25% maximum. Why 25? Because if you lose that entire investment, you still have 75% left. You're wounded but not destroyed. You can recover. You can rebuild. You're still in the game. Thomas violated this rule completely. He put everything into one deal, 100% concentration. When that deal failed, he had nothing left to fall back on. If he had followed the 25% rule, the maximum he could have lost was a quarter of his wealth. He would still have $37 million, still wealthy, still comfortable, still able to try again. But he didn't, and now he manages a restaurant for someone else. I know what you're thinking. But Charlie, what about concentration? Didn't you and Warren make your fortunes by concentrating in great businesses? Yes. When we were young, when we had decades to recover from mistakes, when losing everything meant starting over at 30, not at 60. Concentration is for building wealth. Diversification is for protecting wealth. Different stages require different strategies. Once you've built something worth protecting, the rules change. The goal shifts from maximum growth to maximum survival. And maximum survival means never putting more than 25% in any single basket. The second principle of anti-fragile wealth is this: always maintain at least 20% of your net worth in liquid assets, cash, treasury bills, money market funds, things you can access immediately without selling at a loss. Most people hate this advice. They say cash is trash. Cash loses to inflation. Cash doesn't compound. And they're right in normal times, but we don't build anti-fragile wealth for normal times. We build it for the worst times, for crashes, for recessions, for disasters, for the moments when everyone else is forced to sell and you have the power to buy. Let me tell you what liquidity really is. Liquidity is the power to say no, the power to wait, the power to refuse bad deals because you don't need the money right now. Thomas had no liquidity. All his cash was invested. All his properties were mortgaged. When income stopped, he immediately had a crisis. He needed money for loan payments. He needed money for operating costs. He needed money just to survive. So he was forced to make desperate decisions, sell at bad prices, accept terrible terms, beg banks for extensions. Every negotiation happened from weakness because he had no cash buffer. If Thomas had 20% of his net worth in liquid assets, that would have been $10 million in cash, $10 million to wait out the crisis, $10 million to pay bills while figuring out solutions, $10 million to negotiate from strength instead of desperation. He might have saved everything, or at least saved most of it. I personally keep 2 years of living expenses in completely safe assets, not invested, not at risk, just sitting there, available if I need it. Why? Because if everything goes wrong, if I lose all income, if the market crashes 50%, if every business fails, I have 2 years to figure things out without panic, 2 years to make good decisions instead of desperate ones, 2 years to wait for opportunities instead of being forced to act. That's the liquidity shield. It costs some return in normal times, but it prevents catastrophe in bad times. And preventing catastrophe is worth more than any return. The third principle of anti-fragile wealth is this: build income streams that don't require your time until passive income exceeds your expenses. This is the fortress that protects everything else. Because when your passive income exceeds your expenses, you're truly free. You don't need to work. You don't need to take risks. You don't need to chase returns. Your life is funded regardless of what happens. Thomas had cash flow from his restaurants, $3 million a year, but it required his time. It required his presence. It required the restaurants to stay open and profitable. When he got distracted by the Las Vegas deal, when he stopped paying attention to his core business, when he mortgaged everything for the big bet, that cash flow disappeared. And without it, he couldn't survive. True passive income is different. Dividends from stocks don't require your time. They arrive whether you're working or not. Rental income from properties with management companies doesn't require your presence. Bond interest arrives automatically. If Thomas had built a portfolio of dividend-paying stocks alongside his restaurants, if he had rental properties managed by professionals, if he had bonds throwing off interest, he would have had income even when everything else collapsed. Let me give you the target numbers. Calculate your monthly expenses. Everything. Mortgage, food, insurance, entertainment, everything. Then build passive income streams until they exceed that number by at least 20%. If your expenses are $10,000 a month, build $12,000 in passive income. If your expenses are $50,000 a month, build $60,000 in passive income. When you reach that point, you're anti-fragile. You can lose your job, your business can fail, the market can crash, and your life continues unchanged because your basic expenses are covered by money that arrives without your effort. That's the passive income fortress. It takes years to build, but once built, it protects you forever. The fourth principle might be the most important of all. Assume you're wrong about everything and diversify across scenarios, not just assets. What does this mean? Most people diversify by owning different things. Stocks, bonds, real estate. They think they're protected because they own different assets. But all those assets are based on the same assumptions. The economy will grow. Inflation will stay low. Interest rates will remain reasonable. The government will stay stable. The currency will hold value. What if those assumptions are wrong? In 2008, people thought they were diversified. They owned stocks and real estate and bonds, and everything crashed together because all those assets were based on the same assumption that credit would keep flowing and housing prices would keep rising. When that assumption broke, diversification didn't help. Everyone lost. Scenario diversification is different. You ask yourself, what happens if I'm wrong about everything? What happens if the economy collapses? What happens if inflation explodes? What happens if deflation hits? What happens if the government fails? What happens if the currency crashes? And then you build positions that win in each scenario. Economy grows, stocks win. Economy crashes, cash and bonds win. Inflation explodes, gold and real estate win. Deflation hits, long-term bonds win. Currency crashes, foreign assets and precious metals win. You don't need every scenario to happen. You just need to survive whichever one does happen. And if you're positioned for multiple scenarios, you'll survive anything. Thomas assumed Las Vegas real estate would keep booming. He assumed interest rates would stay low. He assumed construction costs would stay stable. He assumed his partner was trustworthy. Every single assumption was wrong. And because he had no scenario diversification, when reality differed from his expectations, he was destroyed. The antidote is humility. Admit you don't know what's going to happen. Nobody does. And structure your wealth to survive and thrive, regardless of which scenario unfolds. The fifth principle completes the system. Prepare for disasters before they happen. With insurance, with emergency funds, with redundancy, with proper legal structures. This isn't about being paranoid. It's about being prepared, because disasters will happen. The only question is when. Health disasters, someone gets cancer, someone has a stroke, medical bills pile up, income stops, legal disasters. Someone sues you, a partner betrays you, a contract goes wrong. Lawyers start circling, market disasters, the economy crashes, real estate collapses, your industry gets disrupted, your skills become obsolete, family disasters, divorce, death, addiction, mental illness, the things nobody wants to talk about but happen to millions of people every year. If you don't prepare for these disasters, they will destroy you when they arrive, and they will arrive. Maybe not all of them, but some of them. That's just life. Insurance is the first layer. Health insurance, life insurance, liability insurance, property insurance, umbrella policies that protect against lawsuits. The premiums feel expensive until you need them. Then they're the best investment you ever made. Legal structures are the second layer. Trusts that protect assets from lawsuits. LLCs that separate business risk from personal wealth. Estate plans that ensure your family is protected if something happens to you. Redundancy is the third layer. Multiple income streams, so if one fails, others continue. Multiple bank accounts, so if one freezes, you can still access money. Multiple geographic locations, so if one market collapses, others sustain you. Thomas had none of this. No proper insurance, no protective legal structures, no redundancy. When disaster struck, there was nothing between him and total destruction. Disaster preparation costs money. It reduces efficiency. It feels unnecessary when times are good. But over a lifetime, preventing catastrophic failure is more valuable than maximizing efficiency, because you only need to fail catastrophically once for your wealth journey to end. Now let me bring this all together. because these 5 principles aren't separate strategies. They're one complete system that works together. Principle 1. Never concentrate more than 25% of your wealth in any single investment. Principle 2. Always maintain at least 20% of your net worth in liquid cash or near cash assets. Principle 3. Build income streams that don't require your time until passive income exceeds your expenses. Principle 4. Assume you're wrong about everything and diversify across scenarios, not just assets. Principle 5. Prepare for disasters before they happen with insurance, emergency funds, redundancy, and proper legal structures. When you build your wealth this way, something extraordinary happens. You stop being afraid. You stop checking the news every day, worrying about crashes. You stop losing sleep over market volatility. You stop panicking when things go wrong, because you know that no matter what happens, you're protected. Your wealth can handle it. You've built in so much protection, so much redundancy, so much preparation, that no single disaster can destroy you. And when you're not afraid, you make better decisions. You can wait for great opportunities instead of chasing mediocre ones. You can think long-term instead of reacting short-term. You can act from strength instead of desperation. You can say no to bad deals without fear of missing out. That calm, patient, strategic approach, that's what compounds into extraordinary wealth over decades. This is how Warren Buffett and I built Berkshire Hathaway. Not by taking huge risks, not by betting everything on one idea, not by using massive leverage or making concentrated bets, but by building an anti-fragile system that survived and thrived through every disaster for 60 years. We survived the stagflation of the 1970s when inflation destroyed most portfolios, and survived the crash of 1987 when the market dropped 22% in a single day. If the dot-com bubble, everyone called us dinosaurs for not buying technology stocks, and then watched those stocks lose 90%. The other story is we survived the financial crisis of 2008 when the entire banking system nearly collapsed. We survived the pandemic crash of 2020 when markets fell faster than any time in history. And we didn't just survive. We got stronger from each crisis. Because when you're anti-fragile, chaos is your friend. Everyone else is panicking and selling. You're calm and buying. Everyone else is desperate for cash. You have cash to deploy. Everyone else is forced to accept bad terms. You can dictate terms. That's the power of anti-fragility. So here's what I want you to do right now. Take out a piece of paper or open a note on your phone and write down your answers to these 5 questions. Question 1. What percentage of my wealth is concentrated in my single largest investment? If it's more than 25%, you have concentration risk. Write down the exact number. Question 2. How many months of expenses do I have in liquid cash? If it's less than 6 months, ideally less than 24 months, you have liquidity risk. Write down the number. Question 3. What percentage of my monthly expenses is covered by passive income that doesn't require my time? If it's less than 100%, you have income risk. Write down the percentage. Question 4. What assumptions is my wealth based on? And what happens if I'm wrong about each one? If you don't have clear answers, you have assumption risk. Write them down. Question 5. What disasters am I not prepared for? And what would happen if they occurred tomorrow? If you can list disasters you haven't prepared for, you have preparation risk. Write them all down. These 5 questions will show you exactly where your wealth is fragile. And once you know where it's fragile, you can fix it. Maybe you need to sell some concentrated positions and diversify. Maybe you need to build up cash reserves, even if it means liquidating some investments. Maybe you need to shift toward income-producing assets like dividend stocks or rental properties. Maybe you need to buy insurance you've been avoiding. Maybe you need to set up legal structures to protect assets But whatever you need to do it now, not next year, not when you have more money. Now, before disaster strikes, let me tell you what happened to Thomas. He's 62 now. He's starting over. Works as a restaurant manager, making $60,000 a year. Pays off debt every month. Saves what he can. And you know what he told me last month? He said, Charlie, I'll never make that mistake again. If I ever build wealth again, I'm doing it your way. Slow, diversified, anti-fragile, no big swings, no leverage, no desperation. Just steady, protected growth. And I told him that's the only way that works long term, because getting rich twice is possible. People do it. But if you lose everything twice, you're done. You run out of time. You run out of energy. You run out of belief. You run out of relationships who will support you. So you have to get it right. And getting it right means building anti-fragile wealth. I can tell you from watching Thomas and hundreds of others over 7 decades, you don't want to learn these lessons the hard way. The hard way costs decades. The hard way costs relationships. The hard way costs your confidence and your belief in yourself. The hard way might cost you everything. Learn from other people's mistakes instead of making them yourself. That's wisdom. And wisdom is what keeps you rich. Build anti-fragile wealth starting today. And you'll never have to make that 3 a.m. phone call to someone you trust, crying because you've lost everything. You'll never have to explain to your family that the life they had is gone. You'll never have to start over at 60. You'll build wealth that lasts forever and protects everyone you love. I'm 99 years old. I've been wealthy longer than most people live. And the only reason I've stayed wealthy is because I never gave fate the chance to take it all away. I built systems that survive anything. And now you know those systems. Every principle I've shared today took me decades to learn. Some I learned from my own mistakes. Some I learned from watching others fail. But all of them work. All of them will protect you. All of them will keep you rich if you implement them. You watched until the end. That means you're serious. That means you're committed. That means you're different from the 95% who quit halfway through. Now take what you learned and use it. Build anti-fragile wealth. Protect your future. And build a legacy that lasts forever.